Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a quick video showing people how to use this Autotest mod because I couldn't help but notice that there weren't any videos out there kind of showcasing this mod or explaining how it works. So I wanted to give my best shot at it, just to kind of get people aware of it and kind of answer some few questions that I've seen pretty common in a lot of different forums on this mod. Some quick preface: I am not an expert on Skyrim modding. I am not an expert on this mod, and I am not a programmer or a Skyrim modder myself. I just have been modding casually, downloading mods, installing them, and I know a thing or two about programming, but I think just having a video like this can help people at least overcome some of the problems that I had with this mod, and just help get people using it. So anyway, we got this auto test mod by RR Tenshi. What you're going to want to do is go down here, go to mod manager download, go ahead and download that. It'll show you that you need a few things beforehand, so console utility, papyrus utility, SKSE, and SkyUI library. So I've already got Skyrim script extender downloaded for my version of Skyrim. I already have the SkyUI library downloaded for my version of Skyrim. This one will be a manual download, but the papyrus, you can do a mod manager console utility. You can do a mod manager download, and then papyrus and console utility both need this address library. Go ahead and just do the all-in-one mod manager download for that as well. So let's go here. So over here on the left is my Skyrim Special Edition game folder. Over here on the right is the Sky UI library and the SKSE download. So go ahead and download both those files, unzip them, and what you're going to do with the Sky UI is copy both of these, Control C, jump over to your data folder, and paste them into your data folder. Then we're going to go back to our Skyrim game file, go to SKSE, copy the data, the DLL, and the EXE, paste those in there. You guys should be familiar with that by now. Now, once those are done, there's a few things you want to make sure of. First and foremost, make sure you did your SSE edit quick auto clean on all of your files. Make sure you have cleaned up Dawnguard manually by removing that Riften or the Ragged Flagon edit thing. So make sure you did that, and also make sure that you have ran Skyrim from Steam. I often uninstall Skyrim and reinstall it a lot. Make sure you went into Steam and ran it there to get the do whatever it needs to do there. Once you have done all that, you should have your Autotest and your other mods installed here. So we can just go ahead and double click on these to install them. There aren't any settings you need to set up for any of them. We will check all of them, and I don't even think loot needs to be ran with these installed, because all it does is have this auto test mod. The other ones are just kind of like resources that other things call upon, but I don't think they really matter in the load order. I could be wrong. I just haven't seen loot do anything with the other three. So anyway, once you have those installed, you're going to come down to your SKSE file. We're going to run that and get into Skyrim here. So once you're in the Skyrim main menu, you're going to hit your tilde button, and you're going to type in COC space autotest _ test hall. And this will teleport you to the Autotest test hall location in where it does some automated testing. So once you're here, you can run around. This is a brand new save file, brand new character. I come over here to this stone tower, and if you click on it, you have this menu come up, and you can go through here and cycle items in this menu, but pressing E or selecting one of these does not actually run that selection yet. Whichever one you select is what you have to tab out of it to select that option. So I'm going to want register tests, so I select register test and tab out of it, and you'll see up in the top left of my screen it starts saying register test, number of NPCs registered 0, oh, 2,000 tests registered, and then registering location tests, yada yada yada. So that'll run for a second. I usually like to wait until the NPC head test is finished being registered. I know that it probably just takes a second or two, and then the Skyrim menu up in that top left is just kind of slow to give you information from it, but I just like to let it run until I know that it's no longer sending new menu items. So, cool. Alright, now we have all of the tests registered. So what does that mean? Well, let's hit escape, alt tab, or shift tab to pull up the Steam menu. I don't think you need to do this anymore, it's pretty solid, but I usually pull up the Steam menu just to kind of like freeze the game better, because when you alt tab out of it, it just seems to be more stable. And that's just a general rule for Skyrim. So now we're going to be back in Mod Manager with Skyrim running, okay? We're going to click Unlock. And if you click on your overwrite file, you'll see a bunch of stuff in here. And we're going to go into, well, actually we don't need any of these SSE edits. But in SKSE, plugins, storage utility data, these are the tests that it just registered, okay? So if you delete these, you'll have to go back into the game and re-register the tests. These tests are pre-made, so I'm going to open one. This is the location test, so these are all the different locations that it'll try to teleport you to during the location test. So if you want to just run the whole thing first off, I suggest you would do that. It'll take an hour or two to run, and you'll see why in a second, but I'm just going to go through here and delete the majority of these here. So I only want to test 3 different locations, and when you do this comma at the end of it, make sure you delete that on the last line, otherwise it won't work at all. I've just come to learn that the hard way, so if you're editing it, make sure your files look exactly like this. And then we're going to hit Control Save, close out, leave them in your overwrite folder, and I'm going to do the same thing for the next few. So we're just going to test 2 of the NPCs, and you can see why this takes a long time. Default, it tests every single NPC in the game, and so that's very handy to find out if you have any crashes, but it takes a long time just for demonstration purposes. So we are going to test the first 2 NPCs, delete that last comma, Control Save, close out of there, open this NPC heads, and we're going to do some different NPCs just to prove that it's working. So we're going to delete those, come down here, sure, we'll do those 3 heads. Select all of these, delete that, no comma, Control Save, close. Okay, now with those in this overwrite folder still, don't move them out of there. You can go back into the game, and there's a few things you can do. I can come over here, press E, and select Run Tests. Again, it's not going to auto-select it. You have to hit Tab Out in order to get out of that menu. But now it'll load the NPCs into your field of view, take a screenshot of them, and then move on to the next NPC. And if you just say register tests and leave them as default, it will automatically jump to the location tests next. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's a timed thing or what, but once the location tests, once the edited NPC tests are done, it doesn't move on automatically. The other thing it does is it removes your heads-up display when it starts the test. So press the tilde button, nothing will happen. You can tell you pressed it because you're moving your mouth, nothing's happening. Press it again, you go back into moving the camera around. So I'm moving the camera around, press tilde, the console window is up, you just can't see it. So press TM to turn the menu back on. So TM turns it off, TM turns it on. So press TM to turn the menu back on, and then I'm going to say Start Tests. Just like that. And it'll start the location test next, because that was the next test that we had to do. Now I'm going to show you another quick trick. So for location test, it's going to teleport you to a bunch of different locations, spin you around, and if you don't crash, then hey, good for you. So if you're in the middle of the test, you've been running this for a while, you need to get out of it. Press tilde and hit stop tests. Just like that. And it should stop the tests.
We're not soldiers anymore.
Now we're over here. So if I go to start test, that's just for demonstration. That's to start test. It should continue from the last test we did. So if you were in the middle of a giant list of tests, I stopped it, you saw it stopped, I hit start, and it jumped back into running the rest of the tests. So here we go, it automatically went into, what was that? Anyway. So if you hit start tests, it'll continue from where the last test left off. So if you need to make changes, make sure you go back into those JSON files in your overwrite folder and edit those files again. Now once you're down here, you'll see there's a bunch of new ones that say statuses next to them. And this will show you that the test passed. Basically, if it made it through and it didn't crash out, it'll load this file. So, oh, all these 3 locations tested okay. Good for you. If you go to the statuses here, it's not necessarily saying that it tested okay, but the test was completed, right? Like, you may have had someone's eyes bugging out of their head, but the game doesn't, this isn't testing, did it look okay? This is just saying the test had completed. So, I think there is a denotation for if it crashes out, but I don't want to quote me on that. So anyway, we can come back up here. There's also this Autotest config folder, which you can change a few parameters in. I've found it's a lot easier to just ignore that. Basically, it's easier to just start the program, go into the Autotest hall, generate the tests, and then edit the tests how you want them to be edited or how you want them to be ran, and then just run them manually. I am going to come through here though real quick. We're going to delete everything from this folder, because if we keep those in there, it will give us some bugs. It doesn't want to run the test again. So we're going to delete everything in the overwrite folder, come back into Skyrim, and you can see it changed our settings so that we're super zoomed in. So I'm just going to do my tilde. I brought the menu up so you can see. Tilde, QQQ, quit straight to desktop. That's going to be the fastest way to get out of here. And so what did that do for us? So if you go into the Skyrim folder, you see I now have a bunch of screenshots here. So if we open those up, those are screenshots of each of the NPCs that we ran a test on. And so this is a really good way to make sure that you don't have like blackface, or you don't have, random like character models breaking down. And what I would do is, I'll have 2,000 something screenshots in here after I run a full test, and they're numbered, which is very nice. And if I have a group of NPCs, from 1,300 all the way to 1,400 that are erroring out, what I'll do, go through here, make sure you delete all these screenshots, open the game back up, COC test hall, register tests, give that a few seconds, Alt tab, Shift tab, Alt tab, unlock, overwrite. There's our tests. So again, if I said like, oh, the first, there's NPCs down in the thousands somewhere that are bugging out, and I want to edit them and then come back and just test those NPCs again, this is the order that they're tested in. So if you open this up in Visual Studio or something that's more fancy than Notepad, you can actually see the lines that they're on, and the first 5 are just those lines. So I know, oh, if I want to go to test the first 1,000 and test, and NPCs, the screenshots are numbered in the thousands, then you could just come down here, 3010, but it was actually 1315 or something, or 13.5, and you can just delete all of these files from around there. And then let's say it was 10 different NPCs, so we're at 6, we'll come down to 16. Delete them all. Again, make sure that you're not leaving that comma at the very last line. Control S to save. And then we're just going to delete the locations and delete the heads. And then come back into Skyrim. Whoop. And then I can just say start. God damn it, S-E-A-R-T, start. That looks weird. Is that how you spell start? Start tests. And then it should just test those 10 NPCs. And, oh, there it goes. Yeah, and so there you go. Then I can hit tilde, QQQ, the menu's off so you can't see it come up, but now I was able to test those NPCs again, come back over to my Skyrim game folder, and there's a handful of NPCs to test. Now if you'll notice, if you test it this way, the number on the screenshot is not the number from the file that you were going to test. So these NPCs were in position like 1000 something, but they didn't do it whenever I tested it like this. So you're going to want to make sure you go through and do a full NPC suite test on the NPCs and the locations. You don't need to do the heads unless you really want to like get in there and see some high detail, like maybe you got some mods that like are editing skin, or you're having some weird mesh issues. So it's up to you, but if you run all 3 suites in their default configuration, then here we go. If you run all of them in the default configurations, I've done it before, it takes probably like 2 or 3 hours to get through it all. So that's the mod. That's kind of how to use it. There's some cool things you can do, like if you're using the older version and you're still using the .NET framework mod, it sends out crash reports if you crash out, which is very handy to have. So if you're using an older version of Skyrim, you can still use that. According to the mod author, it doesn't work with the new anniversary edition, so that's why I'm not using it. But that exists if you want to play with it. And there's also this interesting program called Modsvesker, and I've tried using this in the past, but it requires an old version of Ruby, and whenever I've tried to install this old version of Ruby, it gives me an error saying that it can't validate someone's email address and blah blah blah. Don't know what that bug's about, but I can't get it to work with this. So this is a much more powerful Skyrim tester that uses Ruby to go through and test a lot more things. If the game crashes, it'll automatically reload the game and continue testing. So that's pretty cool. But it's much more advanced, and I haven't been able to get it to work. Like I said, because the version of Ruby that it requires, I think is like, it's now so old that it's bugged and it can't install correctly. But if anyone knows how to get that running, or if you want to try some more advanced stuff, definitely check this out, see if you can get it running. It's pretty cool. So hopefully that answers a lot of the basic questions about this auto testing mod and shows you how to use it and all of that jazz. So yeah, I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, You could leave them in the comments of the video. I can't guarantee I'll be able to answer them, though. I basically just gave you 100% of the knowledge I have on this mod, but maybe someone else can. So, anyway, that's all. Have a good day.